Hi, my name is Tatum Strauss, and this is my portfolio. I hope that you'll enjoy learning about what I did this year. When I started the year out, I really thought that I was going to focus on creativity and wellness. Most of my goals were around those two graduate competencies, but now when I look back on it, it really is the two skills of interpersonal skills and cultural competence where I've grown the most. It's been a really challenging year for me, and I've grown a lot. Hasn't been easy, but I'm really proud of how far I've come. Interpersonal skills refers to the ability to get along with others, to work collaboratively, and to resolve conflicts. And I think that interpersonal skills and cultural competence are really closely related because we live in such a diverse society. It's really important to understand and recognize the perspectives of people from different racial, ethnic, religious, sexual orientation, and gender identities because they're not always the same as mine. As a matter of fact, usually they're really different. So trying to understand someone else's perspective builds stronger relationships and really helps to create a better world. An experience that helped me develop better interpersonal skills happened in science this year. We were in the same lab group with 5 other students for a quarter at a time, and each of us had a different rotating role. There was facilitator, the materials manager, the participant, the technician, and the director, and each one of those roles had really specific responsibilities. Each of our group was also pretty diverse too. There were girls and boys, different races, and different sexual orientations. And so that was a really, really new experience for me. I've worked in a lot of small groups, but they usually change every couple of weeks. So if I didn't get along with someone, it would be over pretty soon. And so I didn't have to worry about it. But five, a whole quarter, that's a long time. I wasn't used to having specific responsibilities either, so that's something that no one else in the group had to do. So that was really different as well. At the end of each lab, we had to talk about how well we had done our role and how we'd supported the other members of our team. At the beginning of the year, I used to goof off a lot and I was kind of off task and I'd complain about what I needed to do, and then it happened. There was a lab session during first quarter when I hadn't really done what I was supposed to do, and Juliana, a Hispanic girl in my group, got really angry at me. She said that just because I was a blonde, blue-eyed white girl, I thought I could do whatever I wanted, and she didn't stop. She said that she was working to get a 4.0 and that no lazy white girl was going to stop her. So Mr. Jones, our science teacher, heard her. I mean, she wasn't yelling or anything, but he heard her. And maybe he saw the look on her face, and he came over to check out what was going on. He ended up asking Juliana and me to come in at lunch to talk with him. At lunch, he asked each of us to tell our side of the story, and I didn't really have much to say. I mean, what could I say? To tell you the truth, I hadn't really thought about why I wasn't being a good lab group member. But Juliana had a lot to say, and Mr. Jones made me listen. He made me retell what I heard. It was like she punched me in the stomach. I'd never really given anyone else's point of view much thought, and Juliana was right. I had to take more responsibility for how I was behaving because it was affecting other people, and that day began to change how I look at everything. Another experience that really helped me with interpersonal skills and cultural competence was being part of Girls on the Run. I've always enjoyed running. I was on the school's cross-country team, but after the incident in science class, Mr. Jones suggested I join Girls on the Run. Juliana was already in it, and he thought that it might help us, get to know one another a little better and help me get outside myself some. And he was right. My parents are divorced, and I go back and forth between their houses every week. My mom remarried, and I have an older stepbrother and 2 younger half-sisters. My dad travels a lot, and he has a girlfriend who has 2 kids, a boy and a girl that are both younger than me. And sometimes I just start to feel like I'm ignored. Girls on the Run really gave me a different kind of a family. It's a really great program. We have coaches who help us with our running skills and lots of other things. So through the Girls on the Run program, I started paying attention to what's going on in the world, not just here, but everywhere, and thinking about how I fit into all that. I got the courage to ask Juliana why she thought I was a lazy white girl, and we had a lot of conversations, and we had some fights too about how we look at the world. We look at it really differently. We have very different experiences. I started learning more about Juliana's family and the hopes and fears she has. Now she's like my best friend. I mean, who'd ever thought that at the beginning? So some evidence that I've improved. Well, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, interpersonal skills and cultural competence were not the graduate vision skills I picked out to focus on at the beginning of the year. I really thought creativity would be fun to work on, and wellness fit right in with my running and thinking about being an athletic trainer. But when I started putting together the pieces of my portfolio, it was really clear to me that the things I had highlighted in my workbook had more to do with interpersonal skills and cultural competence. This has been a real maturing year for me, and I've improved my interpersonal skills and cultural competence by doing a few things. First, I started really listening to my classmates and asking lots of questions. This might not seem like a big deal, but I used to just talk to the friends I've had since elementary school who live in my mom's neighborhood. They were mostly white, and they all go to my pool in the summer. When I actually started listening to other kids, I found out that each of us has really different stories and things that we think about. At first, when I asked questions, some people got pretty upset with me, but when they realized that I was sincere and truly wanted to understand, they kind of opened up. As I learned more from my friends, I found myself paying attention to how different people react to what's going on in the world. I'd never thought much about other people's perspectives before, especially people of color. I just took for granted that everyone had a life similar to mine. And then one day, when I was at the mall with a bunch of my new friends, I noticed that the security was kind of following us around. That never happened to me before. I felt like they thought we were guilty of something. I mean, I know we were loud, but I've been loud with my white girlfriends before, and security didn't follow us then. I also started to notice more stuff on television and at school. Don't even get me started on politics. One of the other things I did differently was actually doing my part in my science lab group. That incident in science that happened in first quarter sparked something that really changed me. Listening to my classmates and paying attention to their reactions to things made me want to be a better person, a better friend, a better student. I realized that it did make a difference whether I did my best because it influenced others to do their best. I also started to realize that it made a difference when I used my voice to point out when people were making assumptions or repeating stereotypes they'd heard. This was really true in small group discussions in social studies class. Finally, joining Girls on the Run was another life-changing decision for me. Mr. Jones just thought it would be a good way for Juliana and me to learn more about one another doing something that we both enjoy. But it turned out to be so much more than that. Girls on the Run gave me a whole new family. Our two coaches, Miss Elizabeth and Miss Tamika, are incredible, and I am so grateful for them for helping me to find my place. Of course, Mr. Jones was right. Juliana and I had gotten to know one another much better, and now I see her as one of my best friends. Just goes to show you that resolving conflicts can lead to stronger, deeper friendships. It's not that we never disagree, but now we know that at the heart of things, we truly love and respect one another for who we are. I know I've improved because it matters to me how my classmates think and feel about stuff, and I honestly care about them. I know it sounds corny, but it's true. I'm embarrassed that before the incident with Juliana in science, I was pretty selfish. I didn't think much about other people, and sometimes I felt sorry for myself because my parents are divorced and I'm the forgotten middle child. I've gained a lot of perspective on my life. In social studies class, immigration to the United States was one of the topics during fourth quarter, only it was about immigration in the 1800s. My science teacher, Ms. Hollister, assigned each group a project to compare immigration in the 1800s to today. Each group looked at a different country or region that people immigrated from. My group chose Mexico, Central and South America. Juliana was in my group, so I learned much more than I would have otherwise. She has relatives in this country who are undocumented. That's why she plans to go to law school and become an immigration attorney. Again, I really had to think about how people are affected by stuff that doesn't change my life at all. Now I think what's happening to immigrants and refugees is wrong, and I talk to other people about it. My attitude about working in small groups has changed a lot too. Before, I just looked at being in a small group as a way to not have to do much work myself. Now I see being in a small group as a way to learn about the other people and understand their perspective better. When I'm in high school, I'm going to be a junior coach for Girls on the Run. Girls on the Run has given me a family of girls with a lot of different backgrounds. We have fun together, learn from our coaches and mentors, and from one another. It's helped me to find my place when all this stuff at school has been really challenging and kind of overwhelming. I want to be able to help other girls have the same experience. Two artifacts that show my growth are the water filter science project and the social studies presentation that we did on immigration. Our science group created a homemade water filter for the science fair after our lab on pollutants in water. This project in social studies on immigration really changed how I think about people around me. The poem Becoming Joey really made me think about how immigration laws affect my classmates. The water filtration project in the lab it was inspired by showed growth toward interpersonal skills and cultural competence. Before we started the water pollutants science lab, our teacher, Mr. Jones, gave us some background information about waterborne diseases and the need for reliable, inexpensive water filtration in many parts of the world, including some cities and rural areas right here in the United States. When it came time to choose projects for the science fair, our group talked about our options. Part of the criteria required that the project be based on a human or environmental need, and the results should be a product or recommendation that benefited humanity or the environment. From our water pollutants science lab, we knew that 1/10 of the world's water does not, world's population, 1/10 of the world's population does not have access to clean drinking water. After only a bitter discussion, we decided unanimously to investigate how to create inexpensive homemade water filters that could be made from materials that were accessible in most parts of the world. First, we brainstormed what we needed to do, from research to experiments, writing up results, and creating our display. We divided up the tasks among the 5 of us and got to work. At first, it felt like we had a long time. 4 weeks seemed like forever. But after 2 weeks, we hardly had anything accomplished, and things got pretty tense. Everybody blamed everybody else for why we weren't getting anything done. Mr. Jones pointed out that blaming one another wasn't getting the job done. It was so simple. We looked at one another and knew we had to buckle down. We made a plan to meet after school in the library. The research went pretty quickly, and then we got started doing experiments. We did that on the weekend at my house. It was fun and frustrating. Creating the final display and deciding who was going to talk about each step was actually the hardest part. None of us liked presenting very much, so we each took a part to write and present. That way none of us got stuck doing something the others didn't want to do. Before this project, I've never really thought about people not having running water in their homes. Learning more about the world water crisis and the effects of lead and industrial runoff and sewage and drinking water opened my eyes and helped me appreciate what I have. I'd also never had a group project that required us to figure out how we would get the project done. Always before, a teacher had kept us on a timeline. This time, we had to do that for ourselves. In the end, we learned a lot about water and how to get the work done. And I have 4 new friends. In 8th grade, we study U.S. history and social studies. Our teacher, Ms. Hollister, pushed us to think about what it means to be an American. Our fourth quarter project was about immigration. My group chose to compare Latin American immigration